I don't know about you, but I keep hearing about some sort of crisis brewing in the video game industry. Talks of layoffs, low pay, big corporations ruining gaming. This guy on YouTube declaring the video game apocalypse is already upon us. Yada, yada, yada. Hell, I'm always dealing with some bullshit crisis. But how can there be a video game crisis with all the thousands of games out there being played for endless hours on our consoles, PCs, mobile phones, etc.? We spent $57 billion in 2023 in America alone on video games. So, where's the crisis? I haven't a clue. But if there is in fact a crisis in the gaming industry, I care only about what happens to one particular game developer, Fromsoftware, creators of the greatest series of video games ever developed by the collective human mind, led by the Elden Lord himself, Hidetaka Miyazaki. All hail our Elden Lord. Can Fromsoftware survive the video game crisis if such a crisis were to suddenly be unleashed? Now, this is going to come as a great shock to many of you. But there does in fact exist such a thing in this world as the video game cartel. I know. I get it. You heard the word cartel and you immediately thought Colombian cocaine kingpin, Pablo Escobar, or that little Mexican fellow they call El Chapo, which is Mexican slang for shorty, and you've all seen mugshots of their imprisoned gang compadres. But if you look up the definition of the word cartel, you'll discover that a cartel is a group of similar independent companies who join together to control prices and limit competition. Indeed, the example of a cartel we get is an oil cartel, and not a drug cartel, but an oil cartel. And there's no denying the existence of an oil cartel. And like all cartels, they collude with one another at their secret, fancy boardrooms to snort cocaine, go to strip clubs, and to divide, conquer, and control the world that you and I, the innocent gamer, play in. They employ an army of gangster executives to help run their empire. Only don't you dare call them cartels. No, sir, these are corporations, conglomerates, enterprises, respectable companies, innovators, blah, blah, blah. Here's a list of the top 5 video game companies that effectively control the gaming market. They are the leaders of the video game cartel. The top 5 earned a combined $101 billion in 2023, while the remaining 75 companies on the list collectively only earned $95 billion in revenue. So, you may be asking yourself, what does the video game cartel have to do with the Elden Lord and Fromsoftware? After all, he still runs the greatest video game company in the world and isn't subject to the dictates of money-grubbing corporate cartel bosses. Or is he? Well, yeah, you see, Fromsoftware is just a little game developer fish swimming in a sea of larger game developer fish. And we all know what that means. Yeah, Fromsoftware doesn't call its own shots. You see, they're owned by these 3 other video game corporations. Miyazaki has 3 corporate overlords he is beholden to. First, there's the Katakoa Corporation, which has a 70% piece of Fromsoftware. This gigantic media conglomerate is so big, even Sony owns a piece of them. Second, there's Sixjoy Hong Kong, which is a subsidiary of an even bigger company called Tencent. They own 16% of Fromsoftware. But Tencent, we learn, is owned by an even bigger South African corporation called Naspers. I don't really know what they do, except perhaps make lots of money. And they too are owned by some other entity and run a bunch of subsidiaries. A pattern that will become very familiar as we penetrate the extent of the video game cartel's corporate structure. And lastly, there's Sony Interactive Entertainment, which holds the remaining 14% of Fromsoftware, but they too are just a subsidiary of the larger Sony Group Corporation, whom you may have heard about in the world of gaming. These are the big boys, the capo of capos, if you will, of the gaming and entertainment world. They also make the PlayStation consoles that dominate the home gaming industry. But these aren't the only players in the game. There's also Bandai Namco, whose logo we see every time we crank up Elden Ring. This giant Japanese video game company has published just about all of Fromsoftware's major game releases over the past 15 years. The only Souls games they didn't publish were Demon's Souls and Bloodborne, which were taken by Sony, and Sekiro, which went to Activision. Bandai Namco Entertainment was primarily a toy maker until they bought out and merged with Namco, one of Japan's biggest video game developer/publishers in the world, with thousands of titles to their credit. But as cartels do, Bandai Namco Entertainment is owned by Bandai Namco Holdings, which, yes, here it comes, is owned by the Mitsubishi Group, Custody Bank of Japan, JP Morgan Chase, Nintendo, and something called Toho. Yeah, what a freaking mess. But still, despite Bandai Namco's seemingly bottomless pit of IP, video games, and toys since their fruitful acquisition of Namco, and with such iconic gaming titles like Pac-Man, the whole Tekken series, and all those Dragon Ball Z games, they still can't compete with the big boys of the video game cartel. I meant to say they still can't compete with the big video game companies. Bandai Namco still can't hold a candle to Microsoft, which comes in at a surprising number 3 on the list of top honchos in the gaming cartel. Microsoft got there like most big companies get to dominate any industry, by gobbling up video game developing companies. Just look at the many game developers they have in their big pockets. And the developers may also have their own subsidiaries. And on it goes. This list of the world's 80 largest video game cartels/corporations is actually quite deceptive because some of the companies on the list are actually owned by some other larger cartel company. For example, we find Bandai Namco listed as the 21st largest company, but we already know they're owned by someone else. And they list Fromsoftware as number 74, and we know too that Fromsoftware is owned by the big boys at the top of this list. I was surprised not to find Rockstar Games on this list. I mean, the Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption titles are super massive titles, but that's only because Rockstar Games is owned by Take-Two Interactive, the 8th largest video game cartel member, who also own many other iconic titles I'm sure you've all played at some point. Even the smaller game developers like CD Projekt, makers of The Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk 2077, have their own stable of subsidiaries, all cranking out new titles under the parent company's supervision. Ubisoft also has a long list of subsidiary companies under their control. It's a seemingly endless game of big game-developing fish eating smaller game-developing fish. And if folks think that's what's behind the so-called gaming crisis, well, I have news for you. This is just how the world works. All businesses and industries operate under these cartel conditions. This is true on other planets, like when the Star Trek crew went to that planet of gangsters that were fighting for turf and for a little piece of the action. We all want to get in on something good, and giant video game cartels/corporations are no different. The same winner-take-all mindset that was the hallmark of the old robber baron days is unchanged in today's corporate boardrooms. Profits above all profits. Which is why I think many in the Elden Ring community let out a collective gasp when Nintendo dropped the Duskbloods trailer recently. Many simply didn't know what to make of it. A new Souls game from Fromsoftware? What? I can only play it on the Nintendo DS2. What? It doesn't come out until 2026. Yeah, this is one big pill to swallow. I'm sure this news has those video game cartel bosses at Nintendo laughing all the way to the bank. Those smug corporate lackeys. But it sure looks like the 4th largest video game company in the world has managed to snag our Elden Lord and the geniuses at Fromsoftware to force us to buy an expensive gaming device in order to play what looks like one super badass freaking game I can't wait to get my hands on. Damn those Japanese capitalists. But I'm pretty sure I will be suckered into shelling out whatever those fat cats want. Those huge lobsters are expensive. I mean, look at that, it's served on a pile of money. But don't be fooled, friends. No, sir, this man is no one's puppet. I'm sure Duskbloods will be awesome and make a lot of fans happy, and Fromsoftware's corporate masters will be kept busy counting the giant pile of money this venture is going to make them. The only crisis in the video game industry that I can detect right now is that I don't have my hands on that freaking new Nintendo DS2 contraption right this minute, playing that dope-ass looking game. Those cartel bosses sure know how to play us game addicts. They know they're being cruel, but that doesn't stop them. We're just game junkies after all. And for any Elden Ring Soulsborne game fan out there that are thinking that maybe, just maybe, Miyazaki has sold out to the cartel or his corporate masters, well, as I have so dutifully demonstrated, Fromsoftware sold out some time ago to the big boys. But that has not diminished their magic touch as masters of the genre. The challenge for Fromsoftware isn't coming from the cartel, but from us, gamers, whom they've spoiled with one masterpiece after another. I'm going to buy pretty much any game this man and his crew of genius nerds produce from their magic factory over there in Japan. If I have to have implants in my brain to play one of his games, you betcha I would. Place your gaming faith in the Elden Lord of Gaming, my friends. You see, so long as he keeps on producing winners and pushing the limits of the video gaming experience, the video game mafia will whistle away happily as they count the pile of money their ventures with the Elden Lord will bring them. There doesn't seem to be any crisis in profits. Thanks for watching. Talk to me down there if so inclined, and watch out for the big fish.